Hey, this is the Positive Echo podcast with me, Carl Munson in Portugal, and Gary Colton in the UK. How are you doing, Gary?
Hello, Carl. I'm very well. It's been a really great day. I've been kayaking this morning, so life is good.
Oh, yes, you love to kayak, don't you? I forget that.
Indeed,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
Keeps
yeah.
me fit and happy. Hit the personal best for the distance I do this morning.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
5.5 miles paddled in 52 minutes.
You kayaked 5.5 miles, did you say, this morning?
Yeah, that's every Sunday morning, every Wednesday or Thursday morning, non-stop. Two and a bit miles, whatever half of 5.5 miles is, 2.25 miles, and then turn non-stop back to the base.
Well, I never. Now, it's as if we planned to have this pre-roll style conversation
Yeah.
about an extreme. Well, would you call it an extreme sport? I mean, it's a dynamic sport. It's not exactly tiddlywinks.
Yeah, it's not like pootling along down the river. We're doing
No.
6.5, 7 miles an hour, something like that.
Right. Well, very interesting then, because our guest today, High Flow CEO guy, Miguel Franco, joining us live from California today, who uses the racetrack, the karting track, as a metaphor for performance, whether that be personal performance or corporate performance. And the same would be true of kayaking, presumably.
I use the physical nature of kayaking and the fact that you're out in nature
Yeah.
as a metaphor for my life. And I've
Yeah.
used that metaphor as an executive coach with people on the water.
Brilliant. Well, I suspect then we're going to have a rather marvelous conversation. Let's bring him onto the stage. Pop him between us here, a sandwich, a Positive Echo sandwich. Miguel Franco, thank you for joining us. A very warm welcome to you.
Thanks so much, Carl and Gary, for having me on the podcast. I'm really looking forward to have some fun with you guys. So I'm here.
Excellent. Thank you for being with us. And you'll have heard a comparison there to the sort of work you do and the realizations Gary has in the kayak. Could you, before we get into an in-depth conversation with you about you and what you do, and it's going to be mainly about you, I think, today, Miguel, but can you tell us about the High Flow CEO scenario situation and what's on offer to people in that service that you offer?
Yes, well, basically, my proposal to people is to enjoy life from a state, what I call a high flow state, which is a vibrational state, say, where we can experience more joy, more abundance, more love for each other, compassion, and all the good stuff. And that occurs when we are, or most of our aspects of life are coherent with each other, so we can become coherent with what I call the superconscious, which is the quantum field, so to speak, the universe's core energy, whatever gave birth to the universe, to ourselves. And I believe this energy is flowing within each one of us in every cell of our bodies. And when we can create that level of coherence, we experience what I call high flow states.
Beautiful. I think you were nodding there, Gary, weren't you, at the mention of the word coherence? I know you're a fan.
I'm very much a fan of coherence. There's a very nice little experiment that the HeartMath Institute did years ago. And with HeartMath, the idea is to regulate your own pulse rate and variability by breathing techniques. And what they did was put 3 adepts on 3 sides of a table and introduced a guy who knew nothing about what was going to happen. And they sat behind barriers. And the 3 adepts went into heart coherence, first of all individually, and then they matched each other's heart rate variability, even though they couldn't see each other. And the really exciting thing was the novice who was just told to relax, their heart went into exactly the same pattern within about 3 or 4 minutes. And it's thought to be the electromagnetic field from each other's hearts is so powerful, the three entrained the fourth.
How about that bit of quantum entanglement? I think they call that, don't they? Possibly, possibly. We're going to learn more about this from Miguel. And so thank you for that introduction, and thank you for that side note there, Gary. All very interesting
Yeah.
stuff. I think we get a sense of the wavelength that we might be tuning into this this afternoon. Well, for you, I think lunchtime, Miguel, and for us later on in the afternoon here over on in Western
Cheers.
Europe. Now, the positive echo is all about legacy and what you will leave that will echo through eternity in your wake. And I've had conversations with you, Miguel. You're a remarkable man, I know for a fact you'll be leaving quite the echo, and creating waves already with the work that you do and have done with people. And also, there's a theme developing, Gary. Bear with me, because I'm wondering if you'll agree with me on this. We have that theme, the positive echo, and talking about how people might impact humanity and what they share. And you can find out the essence of that in our first podcast that you and I recorded together, Gary. If people want to find out more about the essential message here, but there's a pattern in our guests that I'm noticing, that we interview and speak to some extraordinary, unusual people who I think it's fair to say, and I'm sure you won't be offended by this, Miguel, who are a little bit different as well. So it's like a lot of quite different people, different to the mainstream, different to the norm, perhaps, who create quite a difference in the world. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that, Miguel, because you sent us some notes and points and possible questions, and there was something that really piqued my interest about you as a child and how you saw the world, or how you experienced the world and how you kind of coped with it. And that also is another theme with our Positive Echo podcast guests. They all in some way have had to make sense of life, and that they're making sense of life. You are a great example of this, Gary. The making sense of life becomes a gift to others as well. Would you see yourself in that way, Miguel? Could you tell us a little bit about your childhood and how you came to terms with being a human being on this planet?
Yes. Well, I think it comes, I think the personal development, evolution, people who are searching for answers and all that, for most start at an early age because we think we don't fit. At least that was my experience. That we are an outsider. How did I land in this family, in this country, in this culture? And all that. So I start questioning at a very, very early age because I could perceive things that others couldn't. I had no idea what they were. I used to see or sense, but I think my abilities were more like sensorial. I could perceive presences without seeing them, but I could perceive, I could sense that there was something in the room with me that wasn't visible. And that was very weird. I mean, imagine a child of 3 5 years. I'm not talking about the imaginary friends that we know that we create. I'm talking about energy, really, because I could feel, I could sense, I could. It was very scary at first, um, and then by sharing with my parents, of course, they couldn't understand, but kids stuff, and I had to kind of make sense of it on my own. So I start at a very early age questioning, where do we come from? Where do we go from here? What happens after death? All that stuff. I mean, I was 7 years old questioning this.
Wow.
Uh, and it only got worse because yeah, because the more you ask, the more you have more questions, and the
Yeah.
more you go and start digging into this with a mind that's still information. So, it's like you are sorting things out from the environment that you are into. And I was fortunate to, in Brazil, at that time, it was very common people like me to find relief in spiritual centers. And in Brazil, it is still very popular. There's a philosophy there called Spiritist philosophy. That was a philosophy written by in the 19th century by a French guy, Allan Kardec, and it became extremely popular in Brazil. Extremely. That's the country that has the most adepts, so to speak,
Mm.
of this. And also they had a very interesting combination of things. They were kind of a religion, but not a religion. They were a science. They had a lot of scientific research into the process, and also it was a philosophy. It was like a like creating some, in fact, belief systems on top of whatever they were talking about. And basically, it became popular because of the hope it gave people of life after death. So a lot of there were a lot of mediums that came through that, translating information from these unseen dimensions into into the physical dimension. But also there were very like it was impressive to see because they had demonstrations of materialization of things out of nowhere, objects moving, psychic surgeries, it's called psychographia, which is the ability to write in trance,
Mhm.
um, and all that. And there were a lot of meetings. So parallel to the, I mean, Brazil at that time, the biggest religion was the Catholic uh, Church. So they created the whole thing um also as a Christian philosophy, basically, but describing Jesus just as a psychic, just as a medium, um and and giving interpretations of the gospel, Bible stuff, and all that through the eyes of a psychic, of a medium, and became very, very popular. And I think the reason for that was not to fight with the Catholic Church and to get them
Good
as an
idea.
ally, and but they played a very important role there because they were like a social security branch. They would feed the poor. They would do all the stuff that Christians would do, right?
Yes, they took it
Help,
literally. They took it literally. Yes.
yes, healings, and they integrated with society. I mean, there were like regular doctors attending the population. It was like a Medicare system for the poor
How
also.
extraordinary! How extraordinary!
Yeah.
And clearly a relief for you as well as a young human.
Yes, because it gave me some answers, not a lot of answers, but it gave me some, which fed my interest even further. So I started studying Buddhism when I was 12. I start, and I went through a lot of other lines of thought just to try to put everything together, make sense for me. It's basically I was doing for myself. I was just saying I'm not crazy. I see things, I feel things, and how can I explain those things? So those centers help me to get started, say. And also they gave me a lot of food for thought because I had to develop, because they said, well, now that you know this, you have to kind of learn a little bit more. So I start going to these centers to practice or to learn how to do what is called a passe, which is more like lay on hands.
Mhm.
That you heal people by doing energy work on that with your
Okay.
hands. There are many variations of the Reiki or whatever. All many other traditions do similar things, but this was very popular in Brazil. So people would go to those centers just to receive that. So it's basically is an energy recalibration done by someone else
Hmm.
on you, of course, with your permission.
Yes.
You would go there and allow the person to do that on you. And the results were amazing for a lot of people. I mean, and and there were many levels to it, many levels. But what the coincidence? I think the only girlfriend that I had there that the mother was a medium, worked on a center. I attract a girlfriend whose mother was a medium. So
Hmm.
I didn't know. So I think I bond more with the mother than with the girlfriend because we spent a lot of time just talking about this, and then I started going to the center. But every time I was close to her, like interacting, some weird thing would happen. And the two most impressive things that happened to me, I was 17 by that time, 18, was telekinesis. Was like objects start flying in the room that we were in. I mean, that scared the hell out of me. I mean, it's like, what is that?
Yes.
Like you're sitting in a sofa talking, and then suddenly something like, I don't know, the first one was the TV antenna, whatever. It just was one of those that you put on top of the TV at that time. And I mean, old stuff, we were talking the
Yes.
70s here, right? So that thing was flying like from one place to another in the living room without any. I couldn't understand why that happened. So my desire to explore that increased even more. And by that time, I was in engineering school. So always try to approach from a scientific, using the scientific approach to things. It's trying to understand what are the physics of such process, why something like this would happen. So
Incredible. I mean, this is quite extraordinary, isn't it? And very interesting to hear that you, as an engineer, would-be trainee engineer, student of engineering, you have these. Well, I suppose I was going to say parallel worlds. The world of the immaterial manifesting itself in the material, and then the rigorous science of engineering. Very much a tangible and matter of fact scientific discipline, and you're trying to manage both worlds, or were you experiencing something of an integration and a cross referencing? How was that working for you?
well, integration at that time was very hard. I was living,
Yes.
I think I was living parallel realities
Okay.
really
Yeah.
all the time. So, but it helped me because there are four fundamental forces in the universe, right? It's electromagnetism, gravity, the strong and the weak nuclear forces. So everything in the universe, in theory, is a result of the interactions of these four forces. So I said, it can't be that complicated to understand life if you go from that side. So I went through that rabbit hole,
Yes. Wow,
So
amazing.
yeah, it helped me, definitely helped me to think about things. But
And I
there were,
think at this stage you started racing, kart racing in Brazil as well. That at this stage
yes,
too?
I started at that time, I was 18 because that's when I was able to afford my first second-hand cart. Yes, and then I started driving at that time. Yes,
Wow,
and
amazing.
and I had very weird experiences in racing as well, because not weird, but I mean different experiences, because I was, in a sense, able to channel the energy of performance, basically. I
Mm.
was really quick right off the bat. I mean, without any training. I mean, I sat on a go-kart and I almost won my first race. And we are talking about Brazil karting, which is the fellows of Ayrton Senna and all those guys at that time driving.
Amazing. Yeah.
So it was very competitive and it was very quick.
Mhm.
And what I could notice was that I was driving beyond my psychomotor skills. It was more like going to, today we all understand the state of flow,
Yeah.
but the state of flow normally associated with this kind of experience is basically a brain-based state. It's like the brain, you need to be engaging in an activity to achieve that state. That is a bunch of cocktail of neurotransmitters in your head that will give you that experience. But it was beyond flow, definitely, because um, we all have limitations in our skills of doing things with our bodies, right? And that spiritual philosophy really explained really well, because that's how mediums operate. They transcend, or they allow a different form of consciousness to manifest through them. And
Yeah.
that's how they can write, that's how they can perform psych surgeries and all those different things that some mediums and psychics can do. So I believe in a natural way it happened to me. I think I channeled
Yes.
the racing spirit because
No,
it took
that makes
over.
sense. Yeah, or what occurred to me was you were channeling a racing driver who was better than you thought you were, and that they were coming through you and taking over the controls in a way.
Yes, but I felt like it was me.
Yeah, yeah, no,
I didn't perceive like another entity taking
right.
over.
You were
But
you you were your awareness was taken to another level.
yes, I
Yeah,
perceived myself as an observer of myself driving.
fantastic, fantastic.
And
Yeah, Gary, as a science guy, I think it's
Mhm.
fair to call you that, isn't it? I mean, but no ordinary science guy. I'll add that as well. What are you making of the conversation so far?
It's very difficult because I haven't had those experiences, but I can't say they don't exist.
Mm,
Um, and I find it very difficult to work out how somebody who is like me, is embedded in those four physical states,
yes.
can actually grasp what it would feel like. I mean, I do have periods of flow, like in the kayak this morning. I will go probably 10 minutes. My body is really working hard, but I have no recollection of those 10 minutes. But I don't know whether that's just my body and mind in unison, or it's something that, like you described. So I've always been of the mind that if I can't explain something, I never say that doesn't exist. It just means I have not personally experienced it, but I'm fascinated by everything in the world. And if it exists, it's not parallel, it's not paranormal, it's just normal. It's the universe has decided this is what it wants to do. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean everyone can perceive it. And I
Mm,
can understand that. But that experiment I mentioned earlier about the naive person being entrained, it assumes that somehow, somewhere, their body felt the electromagnetic field of the other three. So we almost certainly do have the ability to perceive, but we don't have necessarily, most of us, the ability to interpret what we perceive. We kind of run on it automatically.
yes.
And there's maybe a few people that have developed a sensory vocabulary that isn't usual. And if they're able to do that, fantastic. It's what new information they bring to the world that kind of causes me to wonder. So the idea of a psychic foretelling the future, is that something, or is it a figment of their imagination. Connecting with people who have died. Why would they still be hanging around? I mean, I know I'm going to be stardust eventually, and I'm absolutely happy with that. But will my cogent thoughts be available to someone else after I'm dead? Not sure.
These are good questions, and I could ask you, Miguel, now to answer those of Gary's, but I'm not going to. I think we
Good.
should. I think we should. No, I think we should return to it
Yeah.
because I think ultimately that's the question, isn't it? Can you, Miguel, assist, train, support people in developing the sort of capabilities and faculties Gary's mentioning there? But we've got a little bit of a way to go, I think, before I can ask you that question. And this is your journey. We'll come back to your journey, and we'll ask that question a little bit later on because I think it's the right time to ask later after we've tracked your journey into understanding and accepting yourself and developing the skills that you have now in this manifestation of yourself, Miguel. So, did you feel then that by this stage, late teens, possibly going into your early 20s now, did you feel more comfortable? Did you feel like you'd um, coped or mastered, or at least were okay now with the things that frightened you as a child?
Not really.
Oh,
As I said, it gets worse
oh,
because you
okay,
it gets worse until it gets better.
okay, yeah,
Because the more the I have even a poem about this. Is the more I see, the deeper I go. My heart searches for something to know. It doesn't end.
Hmm.
You get an answer, you get another question.
Yes, true. That's a scientific process, really, isn't it?
Yeah,
As
there's
Yeah.
much as a spiritual process.
my PhD supervisor said, you know, when you start this project, you have to get used to the idea that everything you discover will raise more questions than you've just answered. And if you can't get used to that, don't start.
Oh, really? Wow, some good
Yeah,
advice there. Yeah.
absolutely.
For me, it really intensified this time because I had experiences that totally scared a lot for me because I was robbed twice at gunpoint. So I was 17, 16, 17, 18, twice. I mean, between 16, 20. And before it even was fashionable in Brazil. Uh,
Sorry to laugh, but that is funny.
Yeah.
yeah, but that's the truth.
Right.
And 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 that was like you see your life blink in front of you. I mean,
Yeah.
you could be gone. And I said, what the hell did I do to have that experience?
Yes.
And and right after that, not right after, but when I was 21, in fact, I was my last year of school. I decided to do a trip, explore the planet, because I was thinking, you know, what do I do after I graduate? You know, and and I went to Europe. I spent 3 months traveling, backpacking there. Then I came to America, and and when I returned to Brazil, I was still like buzzing with 4 months of being out, right? Seeing different cultures, exploring, and all that. And all excited. I said I was even still processing quite a bit of my experiences. And then I had an accident, a car accident that I crossed. Believe it or not, I don't know how to describe that experience, but I was in with the universe. Basically, I didn't see a tunnel of light, but I experienced the light. I experienced being in the vastness of the universe for eternity. I cannot describe that experience really. All I can remember was that was very warm, very warm in terms of not temperature, but the warmth, like of energies, like that you feel good
Mhm.
with,
Mm.
and of kind of a voice. That's all I can maybe say. That was a voice that said, "Just go back to your body." And I woke up in my body in the hospital like almost a day after. I was unconscious for a long period of time. And when I woke up, I said, that's when I realized that I was in deep, you know.
You don't mean inquiry, do you?
Yes, a
Right.
very deep.
Right. Neck deep. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So those are very terrifying and also educational experiences by the sound of it. As like you say, you can't really have one without the other.
Yeah, and then I had this experience, and I had to cope with it. I was
Mm.
confronted because I spent 1 year laying flat horizontally on a hospital bed without moving my body.
Wow.
And you become like, am I gonna walk again? Am I going to have a normal life? Am I going, all that stuff right after having this wonderful experience of exploring the planet,
Yes.
right? So as I said, you get much more. I can tell you I got a lot of more questions after that.
Well, yeah, and
And
you had a
and
lot of
having
time to think, right? You were on your back for a year. A lot would have occurred to you in that time.
it was really intense.
Yeah.
Plus, with all the injections that you get, who knows what they put in those things? You kind of you have a cocktail of things flowing through you too that alters your biochemistry. So it was very unsettling.
Yeah.
But at the same time, what happened was those centers that I used to go earlier, they start doing long distance healings for me in bed. And I could sense that. And it was like that. So then we start talking about the quantum field or energy fields and all that. Like Gary, when you mentioned heart mass, and you can measure. I mean, they
Mm.
have done gazillions of experiments with that in terms of measuring those electromagnetic fields where you get coherent with each other, in a sense, and that's how you raise coherence. And there are many studies. One of the ones institute that I joined long time ago was IONS here, Institute of Noetic Sciences,
Oh, yeah.
which was founded by Edgar Mitchell, which
Yes.
I had the privilege of talking to him several times and sharing those experiences. And it's pretty close to where I live here.
He's a NASA astronaut, correct?
Yes,
Yes.
the
Right.
one of the 12 that walked on the moon.
Yes.
And he had one of those experiences that we are talking about here,
Mm.
while in the capsule coming back from the moon.
Yes.
And he performed several psychic experiments without NASA knowing that, but he did. And that's why he decided to found this
Mm.
institute. It's just a research institute about
Mm.
psychic stuff. When I say psychic, let's clarify that it's not
Yeah.
fortune teller. It's not really like
Wanted to make that
uh,
clear.
what's in your pocket, and you telling the future or no. Psychic is a very wild term, at least here in California, to describe extrasensorial perception,
Yeah.
basically ESP. And so they had all kinds of studies on those and how the mind influence matter and all that. I mean, the literature is huge. And so I went through that experience after my near death experience. Say it only increased my desire to know more.
Yes.
You
And
know,
one little sidebar again to that heart math thing.
sorry.
My mind seems to remember that the the electromagnetic field, the strength of it is many more times bigger in the heart tissue than it is even in the brain. You would think the brain is the thing that gives out most, the strongest field, but it's not. It's the heart, kilo for kilo.
Right.
And we connect through our hearts, it seems to me. That's our language. It's our vocabulary. We don't connect as humans with our minds as much. We communicate through our brain and our voices, but we connect with people through our hearts. We fall in love with people. And I just wonder whether that is actually a physical manifestation of something rather than a poetic model. But
Oh,
yeah,
I see. Like a gesture of coherence. Yeah, yeah. I'd also like to add, if I may, there with the word psychic. I mean, presumably it means to do with the psyche, and we all have a psyche, or we are all in the psyche, and it's a shame, isn't it, that the word psychic has been somewhat misinterpreted or devalued or even manipulated, you might say, to mean quite superficial and perhaps unhelpful things, when it's so deep. And if it is to do with the heart and this greater capacity that we have as human beings, what a shame that is. But it didn't stop you, Miguel, from exploring this path. And you were on your back for a year. What happened after that? What did you do?
I went crazy.
Oh, dear, okay. So I'm thinking any minute now he's going to tell us, yeah, and that's when I started my company. Everything was fine, but no, he went crazy. Okay.
No, I went with a deep desire to heal myself because I had no idea how, when they removed, I was in traction, so I was with my legs kind of, So when they removed the traction and I still was in a cast, they put me in a wheelchair just to get out of the bed and all that. That's when I start realizing, no, I have serious stuff here to do. It's like I need to do some serious work. And so my whole life right after that was first to graduate in school, which I did because all my teachers and classmates, they did the work for me, so I could graduate with my group. They I did exams at home and all that. They were very nice. They wanted me to graduate, and after I did that, in fact, I started going to work. I had before this accident, I was as a trainee engineering. I was getting to becoming a hired engineer by a company. So I was working as a trainee at that time because hadn't graduated yet. So when I graduated, they were so nice. They said, "Hey, come and you are hired. You become, you're part of the team here." So I had a friend who would pick me up at home, put my wheelchair, and we would go to work. And I put all my energy on that, and then going, of course, physical therapy and all that. But I had a very wonderful group of friends, and we used to go to the beach every weekend. And I kind of recovered because of the water, because they would put me in the water with I had a windsurf board at that time. I couldn't even stand up, but they would put me on the board and say, "Miguel, you're not gonna get out of the sea until we say so." So I had to stay there, baking and moving my legs in the water, holding onto the board.
Wow.
And that was wonderful because Brazilian beaches are very nice, and we used to have a lot of fun there. So I think the water, the sunshine, and it gave me like hope, and from this hope and the warmth of people, we talk about heart centered and how the heart. I only had love surrounding me at that
Beautiful.
time,
Yeah.
and that was my healing,
Wonderful.
physical healing.
Yes, but okay, your emphasis there were still other things left to heal or to explore.
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely a lot.
right. So where
And
are you now? Where are we in this journey? And I'm aware, I just looked at the clock and 40 minutes have passed, and
Mhm.
it's extraordinary. I lost track of time. Hearing you took us into
oh
the
yeah,
time.
I have no idea of time. Okay, for yes, okay.
Yeah,
Uh, well, so if you want me to speed things up, I can. I don't
well,
know. I don't know what is interesting or not, but one thing I would like to mention about, because I think it's very important. We are talking about energy fields, mediumship, and all that. Maybe we should talk a little bit more about that, because the background that I had was very helpful in the future for me. So
yes,
everything that happened for me in my childhood, trying to understand that later on in life, with more of my scientific understanding and explorations of places like ions and other places, I really, it made a lot of sense. So it's the things start making sense.
well,
For
that's it.
example, just
That
just
is that is what I want to ask you about, and that's what the Positive Echo podcast. That's like our what's become apparent. Our subtext here is is what people discovered that's helpful to themselves and then is shared with other people. A lot of our guests do that. They found something that's helped them heal themselves, which they're then sharing with the rest of humanity, which is their positive echo. I don't think we necessarily intended to do that, but there is definitely a theme of that, Gary. I think, and so Miguel, it's that. It's like what came from your journey that is now important for you to share for with humanity for the rest of your life, and then thereafter as a legacy thereafter.
well, I think it's like everything evolves, right? So you have those traditions that are thousands and thousands of years old and all that stuff, and I think they did their job in many ways. They still do, uh, but I think we are in a phase where we need something different. We need something more tangible, I would say, that's not so philosophical, that can be like, it's like learning to drive. That okay, if you have the right techniques and you have, the concepts down, you
Yes,
can go fast.
yes.
Even if you don't have the skill, you develop that skill. You know, so I believe developing the skill of managing your energy fields to connect with information that will be very good for your life, that will bring you happiness, will bring joy, will bring more community, will bring abundance. And I'm not only talking about money here. For me, abundance is another term that's very badly used.
Yes.
uh, but it's more like the joy of knowing that you are whole and complete, that you
Yeah.
are not like fractured, that you are not a broken person.
Hmm.
And I think that's very important for people to realize. And it's very difficult in the day to day, because we have to pay bills, we get sick, people say, "Oh, why this happened to me?" A lot of stuff happens, right? But to have that comfort of knowing that we can manage our thoughts, feelings, and actions to give them more direction, flow, and purpose, I think that's what being a high flow CEO is all about.
And by that, we can broaden that, can't we, to be the high flow CEOs of our own existence. I mean, the CEO obviously is something that's applicable in the business world to the leader of an organization, but we're all the CEOs of our own lives, aren't we? Which I suspect is what you mean in more general terms there.
Yes, I kind of develop a system, right? But I call this process more self leadership. I think before we lead others, we gotta lead ourselves,
Mm.
and the way to lead ourselves is to give our thoughts, feelings, and actions more direction, flow, and purpose. Simple. I don't want to
Easy.
complicate anything. That's it.
Yes.
Now, how we go about it is the challenge, and many, there are so many tools, many form, many frameworks. I try to create something that is very simple and very um, easy to to apply. Now, being easy doesn't mean that solving those problems or getting your answers is something easy. It may take a while, you
Hmm.
know. And I believe that the more you know, the less you know. It's simple as that. One question gets an answer, gets another question. There's no end. We can go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Now, we can get stuck on this process too,
Hmm.
trying to just find the meaning of life that way, and then oh, eureka, I got it. I don't think we ever get it. I think the more is the experience that we can have that will give that perception of being one. The answers are within, even if we cannot translate them at times. You know, what is that experience? No, but you are experiencing wellness. You are experiencing those good, which I call the high flow state. You know, without really have to explain everything. Is life is an experience,
Yes,
and
not an explanation.
yes, and if we can create good experience or experiences where you feel good and appropriate, for me that's the answer. So there are techniques, and you know, there are many people offering many things, and I think it's all valid. It's more what you are in affinity with.
Yes.
There are some processes I have zero affinity for, and there are some that I love.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
Driving a race car, for example,
Driving a race
amazing.
car is one of them.
Miguel, one of the things that I've kind of come to realize that helps people is to pay closer attention and non-judgmentally, but be an observer of the seminar, which is your daily life.
Mm.
So if you look at your daily life and you notice the things that are happening, and I always ask myself a question, well, that's fascinating, but what made that happen? Was I the person that triggered it, or did something else happen? And I began to notice years ago that ideas would just come into my mind that I had not invited. I'd spent no cognitive effort in coming up with. And I realized this is what the traditionalists would call emergent wisdom. So I'm really interested in the innate wisdom that all of us have, nature gave it to us, and how we prevent society from telling us we don't have wisdom. I think there's a kind of connection with what you're saying, is that there's something else that we can't actually think about. That's not the right tool to think about it. We have to feel it. And then useful stuff comes out. So I call this the gateway drug to wisdom. And it's that pay attention to the small things in your life. You don't give them emotional weight unless they trigger an emotion. Then you start investigating your emotions, and gradually, you actually become more sensitive to the world around you. What do you think?
I believe what you said is to become happy for no reason,
Mm.
and and just enjoy. And it's true. I think the more we can pay attention um, to our feelings, to the way we experience life, the more we pay attention to that, the more we can transform the experience. And the more we can transform experiences for them to become coherent with other experiences that we have. So for me, a wonderful life is filled with coherent experiences, that
Yeah.
our experiences are coherent with each other. So if we can create coherence in our lives with coherent experiences and help others do the same, for quantum by quantum entanglement or whatever mechanism we are not aware of, the more coherent the planet will be.
Yeah.
Imagine if we all create coherent experiences. And I think that's the legacy I want to leave behind, is that just that thought that if we create coherent experiences for ourselves, we'll be self-realized, we'll be whole and complete in our own existence, and by default, we are going to help others become the same. Because
One
if we are creating coherent experiences, is because we are not alone, we are co-creating. So we are co-creating coherent experiences. So we all become coherent with the experiences we are having, even if those experiences are perceived in a different way, which that's what happens because we all have our own kind of filters or our own awareness of things. But if I think we can feel coherent with this conversation here, for example, and
yeah.
having different backgrounds.
And
You
can
make
we have, Miguel? I love that. Can we have some homework, if you like, as well? People will be thinking, "Hell yeah, happiness for no reason, joy, having being in a flow state quite easily, naturally." Could you? I mean, Gary's shared, the that's the kind of observational scientific approach to what you're talking about. What would be one technique or insight people could try, Miguel, after hearing you today, that they might like to try for the next few days to see if it does bring about a greater flow state or more access to that?
I believe that there are many ways to do this, but I think the easiest way is first to think about something you enjoy experiencing or you enjoy seeing, and then start looking for the evidence of it in your day to day.
Mm.
We can always find that.
Yes.
Although we look for not what's wrong, we look for what's not working,
Yes.
the whatever is, and but if we start looking for the positives, it's not like putting a colored glass, like they say, to
no.
see the world. It's more a matter of deciding what you want to observe
Mm.
and what you want to, because in the end this is a choice. So we have the choice or the ability to
Mm.
choose whatever we want to put our attention on.
Yeah.
And if this is a vibrational universe, which is, so the more we can put our attention on the vibration that we want to see or experience, the more present it will become in our perceived reality. That's simple.
Very
My
good.
long time ago, my coach, I had an executive coach, and that's what got me into becoming one. He asked me to keep a joy diary. So focus only on those things that bring you a modicum of joy, and make very, very brief notes at the end of the day what they were and how intense they felt. And at the end of the month, just look at all the things that were the most intense experiences of joy you had, and use that as a tool to go and change your life. And that's the main reason I walked away from a 30-year-long academic career, because it didn't bring me any joy anymore. So I walked
Well,
away. So
yes.
sometimes to keep a record reminds you of the things that you said you felt joy from, and you like you just said, you can go searching for more of them, and it feels wonderful and
Mm.
very, very freeing.
Just a quick example, because Monday when we exchange information, I was at the racetrack and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had my GoPro there, and I had a very exciting time, uh, you know, uh, playing with a friend there, and and I recorded that, and just before today, I played back that video, and
Yeah.
me at the limit, sliding the cart and all that. That I felt so joyful, and then I came online. So you carry that experience with you. That you can activate in your energy fields what makes you feel good,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and that I hope you can broadcast that too.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm gonna make a clip of that, don't worry. And it just occurs to me that it would be great that this technology, as you say, as simple as it is really, and easy in a sense, would be taught to young children, the like yourself when you, Miguel, when you were looking for answers. If this was available to youngsters,
Oh,
wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing? And perhaps
that's
that's
why I created all
yeah,
these things.
yeah,
Miguel, it would take away the secrecy and mystique of
yeah,
having these feelings and thoughts as a child,
yes,
because you think no one else is having them, and that produces shame.
yep.
Why should kids feel ashamed of the way they feel and think? They shouldn't.
Mm.
So in education, either through the parents or the schools, they can be relieved of that feeling of being different and guilty of something, because that trauma lasts a very, very long time.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, it does. Yeah, yeah.
I still
Right.
work on them.
Well,
Yes.
exactly, and many people are, aren't they? And we're in that age where that's seen to be a useful thing now, in the way that I think many people went to their graves not resolving anything of that kind, and God
It's true.
bless them, and they it's like on their shoulders we stand in a way as well.
Mm.
Miguel, thank you so much. We have a few minutes where we take a little look, like an and finally. A
Mhm.
story or feature that we found, or that Gary's found, actually, generally speaking, in the news media, which is a light or a landscape, a lighthouse or a landmark for us to focus positive echo vibes on. But thank you so much, Miguel. I've got a feeling we're going to be seeing you again and working
Mm.
with you in some other way. And we all have San Martino in common. We might meet, and you might be part of this process of bringing people to San Martino de Porto, where we discuss such things and actually put them into practice in our lives, and become coherent here in San
Yeah.
Martino de Porto. So looking forward to that and seeing you here. It's where I
Me
met
too.
Gary, funnily enough. So thanks, Miguel, for the time being. Bear with us while I bring to the
Thank you.
screen this particular Naturvillen. Is that how you say it, Gary?
I have no idea. Nature House is the translation.
Let's call it that then. Let's
But,
go with that.
I should preface this. I have no financial involvement with this project.
Why not? It's my question. You
Well,
should.
I haven't got the cash.
Oh, okay.
This was I found it on a program, a TV program on Apple TV. There are other channels available, on a series called Home or Homes, and it's wonderful. It's something a bit about architecture, but it's more about the people who have created these homes. They're all homes. They're not public buildings. So this guy, Anders, he built a house, log cabin, inside a greenhouse. And he thought this would be a great idea.
Yeah.
And so it cuts down the energy use and he lives not far off the Arctic Circle.
In
By
the fire.
30%, they can grow a lot of their food inside this huge wraparound. I think is that the one? Yeah, wraparound greenhouse. They have chimneys that go through it for the winter, so it warms the whole place up. And
Beautiful.
they have now changed Swedish law to allow this to happen.
Quite right.
Previously,
Too.
very, very tight zoning laws. So the positive echo from this is, here's this guy who just thought, I know what, I'll build a greenhouse around my traditional Swedish log cabin. And his family lived there. It's just a wonderful thing to see. So if you can
Yeah.
go to Apple TV and have a look, there are homes in Indonesia, Ghana, Australia. They're all different, but they're very, very interesting people have built them.
Well, Buckminster Fuller comes to mind, and these.
Mhm.
If IKEA made Earth ships, this is probably what they would look like, right? And
Yeah.
this is the next gen Earth ship, isn't it?
And he
Amazing.
built the entire thing himself by hand.
Did he really? That's
He
even
did.
more special, isn't it? I mean, it's got passive house vibes to it, hasn't it?
Mm.
You know, I've
Yeah.
seen houses of. There are lots of lovely elements. This is a true evolution, isn't it, of the eco house?
Yeah.
And
I
that's
love,
extraordinary.
absolutely love one. I
Yeah.
mean, I wouldn't build it by hand myself anymore, but I'd really love to live in a house like that.
Well, IKEA, if you're watching, I'm sure you can step in and help with this. But yeah, it's like living in a biome, basically, isn't it? It's
Mm.
a very
Yeah,
natural, beautiful looking home held within a biome in a very cold climate, by the look of it, but
they
absolutely
grow,
stunning.
they grow grapes in that
Do they
glasshouse.
really? Well spotted. Well spotted. That's the actual website link there. Well spotted there, Gary, on that. And thanks again to you, Miguel Franco, for being with us of High Flow CEO. It's been great chatting to you, and I suspect we will talk again at some point, and look forward to meeting you in real life as well, ASAP. Thanks, Miguel. Have you got a final thought for us?
Me?
Yeah.
Uh, I think it's like that poem, another one, like create your life without fear and see the illusions disappear. You're not
Woohoo!
a hostage of the past, in your future you create right here.
What a beautiful continuation from our last guest,
Mm.
where we looked at poetry in the workplace. That's a fantastic. We should have that. Each guest should make a reference to the previous guest, and you did that beautifully there, Miguel, with Kate. There. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you everybody
Thank
for
you.
watching. You can get in touch with us through the links in the comments below, wherever you hear this podcast or watch this video. Take care and bye for now.